Welcome to Model Engineers Laser. My name is Holly and this is part 27 of our Jack videos. Apologies if you can hear the apprentice in the back. She's having some fun with her dad at the moment while I am doing these videos. I wanted to show you a bit of the cleaning up and that you can achieve with a bit of time and patience to clean up this solder. You can see from the sunshine coming through the window, it's actually quite a nice day today. And when I ended the last video, it had turned night, so I had taken off the acid off this because I didn't want to cause any corrosion. But I haven't really touched the solder on this side, where on the other spectacle plate window I have done. And there's a significant difference there in how it's cleaned up. So there's a bit more work to do on the rest of the body in terms of removing the solder as well as the cab. In this video, we're going to put the cab onto the footplate and attach that. We're going to look at attaching the safety valve tube. Hopefully we're going to look at putting the hole in the cab for the reach rod, just here, because at the moment it's all attached, so it needs taking off, putting a hole in the cab and putting it through, and also look at doing our handrails on the cab. This video is going to be quite a momentous one though, because we need to take the engine off the build frame because we can't get the cab on with it on the build frame. So this is the point now of no return. It's not going to go back on this build frame. I must say it has proved very useful, and hopefully you've all seen that as the videos have progressed, that the function of being able to lock it and turn it and rotate it, I mean for video making, yes, but also in its own build in its own right has been really helpful. So we're going to, the thing with this is our own build frame, Model Engineers build frame. Our build frames convert from a build frame to a rolling road. I'm going to turn it over so you can just see. Oh, it's quite heavy now. She says we don't want to break anything as she turns it over. Hopefully you can, oh, that's a good one, you can see. There's these little hexagonal bolts here that will take the build frame. Let's turn it around. Take these off and slide them off, and then we can use the rolling road to rest the engine on while we do the next bits. But for now we're going to say goodbye to the build frame. Right, Ed's bought me his little slate tipper wagon of Allen keys, and like all of our videos I'm going to try and do this on camera so you can see what's doing with. This time I'm going to try and do, hopefully, and not break anything because it's quite a heavy beast now. So, brakes on, engine still in place. The best way to do this is to undo those. They only need to be loose, they don't need to come off all the way because she'll slide. There we go. Look a bit more. Right, and I'm not going to turn it round, but you're going to have to trust me that there are two on the other side. I'm just repeating the process. So I've undone those. So this brake section here will actually slide quite easily. So the next thing to do is to take the knob off the brake. Really support your engine at this bit because it's no longer on brake, so it's going to return. There we go. And the front frame actually fell off quite easily. So now I need to undo these here to remove it off, but before I do, I'm just going to go and sort her out a drink. I'm back. She's got milk. She's a happy girl. So now, it's a matter of undoing those ones. turn that over to do the other side. It's sliding off already. I'm trying to do it on camera and it's not working, sorry. You can see that. There we go. There. And that is not loose enough. A reluctant frame off. There she is. Unlikely to go back on. Fingers crossed she's behaved herself. I'm now going to kind of put this back together again in a fashion just to make sure I don't lose any parts when we build something else in terms of these frames, and get them removed, cleaned it up, and then put this back on the rolling road. The rolling road is filthy and needs cleaning, so I'm going to carry on the video without it for now. The next stage is to put a hole in the cab here for the reach rod, which will eventually have to come off to enable us to do that. But before we take it off, we're going to use it as a datum point to know where the hole needs to go in here. So I have my measuring kit. Let's see. This is going to be fun to do with as well. Can you all see that? Let's have a look. Better. So it's getting both measurements from when the reach rod is nearest the boiler and it's furthest away, and tallest off the running board, foot plate, and when it's nearest, to make sure we've got its full measurements. So make sure that when you're measuring, you set to 0 when it's fully closed each time. So the first measurement I'm going to do is of the reach rod at its nearest point to the boiler. Now its nearest point is going to be when you're changing gear. So it'll be, I'm just going to rest that on those screw heads. I know that's not going to be entirely accurate, but we're going to give it some play anyway. But I want to know the points rather than what I'd be comfortable with it. So I'm going to take that from the boiler and turn it on its side, because then I can get to see. So I'm measuring from the inside of the reach rod. I don't know if you can see that on camera. There. So that is 10.2. If you are building along, don't use my measurements. Please measure your own. Boiler to reach rod. And then again, I'm just going to put it in gear, in mid gear anyway. And now I'm going to measure on the outside of the reach rod. There is a bit of play in that, so make sure when you're doing this, you're either sat on there with it pushed to its outer, or sat in there with its pushed to its end, because it has, like I said, a bit of play. And I'm going to do the whole process again. We set this back to 0. Didn't need it, but I've done it anyway. No, like I said, you don't want to be pushing that away back towards the boiler, so be a little bit gentle when you're doing that. Try and make sure you get the same point that you're resting on every time for your boiler, and that is 13.57. Doesn't seem right. 3.5 mil for that movement. Measure twice, cut once. Yeah. Yep, that's right. Okay. Measure that one again. And then the next measurement we want to take is we're going to be using the foot plate here to the bottom and the top. Now, let's see if we can get this on camera. It's probably would have worth leaving it in the build frame. This, you'll see as we change it, if there's a bit of paint chip off there, that might help you to see how it drops and how it moves. So you can see that. Did you see it drop ever so slightly? Not so you can see it more the other way. How much that rod drops. So that's at its lowest point. So that's the measurement I want to take for its lowest point. Again, very tricky to do it on camera, but we'll give it a go. There. Yep. So I've got 20.98 from foot plate to reach rod, and then its highest point should be there. So get me back to 0, make sure that's accurate. It's easy to do because it can sit on there this time. Yep. I'm going to check my measurements again. Yeah, and then I think they've got the exact same numbers, would be a good sign. Now I've got my measurements, I'm going to just move her out of the way a little bit because I don't need her. Oh, shaking the camera, sorry. So the next stage is we need to mark out where she's going to have the hole cut here for the reach rod. I've got my measurements written down. Just a marker pen. Have a rough idea of where you're going to mark out from before you draw it. So it was from foot plate 20 to 25. 20 to 25, so sort of in that section there. Sort of in there somewhere. So taking my foot plate to the reach rod, I had a measurement of 20.98. I'm just going to do it, and 25.79. I'm going to round up to 25.6, and then scratch it along there. So I've got my 25.6 and I've locked it, and then I'm going to go down to 20. It's not a lot of clearance, I know that, but this is just for marking out rather than giving me any tolerance at the moment. Too far. It's like being at the petrol pump, isn't it? Trying to get it spot on the right price. And then again, just using that along there, the bottom of there for a guide. And then loosen that back up again, and I'm going to do the whole process again. So where we're going from the boiler, which is going to be where this is, because it's quite a snug fit, and we had 10.2 and 13.75, so I'm going to round that to 9.5. Do I want it 9.5? No, I want it 10. Do I want it? Make it 10. This is giving me next to no clearance at all, because I want to mark out accurately to start with, and then give myself some tolerance afterward. And then I'm going to 13. I'm going to go to 14. Round it up. And 14.3 that'll do. There we have it. Right, I'm going to redo that whole process again. I will reset this back to 0, because you measure twice, cut once. I'm not going to film that. You've got the idea, but I will measure it again. And as you can see, I've got a nice little square there of where I need to cut as a minimum, but I'm going to add a little bit extra for tolerance. Double check these measurements. That bottom one's a bit exaggerated, probably too much, but I'd rather it be slightly too big than not. On the original engine, this was a square hole. Now looking at it, that's between 4 and 5 mil wide. I'll show you that in a moment. So what we're going to do is work out the center point of this, go and drill 4.5, 5 mil drill in the middle so we can get a square file in it, and then square out the section. We'll take it slightly proud again, just to give us that bit more clearance, but we know that's the minimum hole that we need, but it's going to cause a bit of friction. So yeah, we'll measure that up. Find the center hole exactly the same as we've done with this, just a bit of scratching, and then go and drill a hole in it. There we have it. It was a bit of wood behind, took it in the workshop, and that's a 4.5 mil hole. You can see again that's taken it pretty close to the lines on those, so there is still no clearance, and I've got myself a little square file. I'm not going to film myself filing this out. Say that 3 times fast. File it out to the line. I'm not going to give it much, if any, clearance this time round, and then we're going to do a dummy fit on the engine itself, and see how much play I need in each stage, because I'd rather check and double check again rather than take too much off or not enough. So my next part, when I pause and restart, I'll have started to take the reach rod off and put it on. I have filed away and given myself my little square hole. What I've also done is, in my earlier videos, you'll remember we talked about setting this up for our gears and making sure we've got them in the right way around. If you undo that screw to take it out, you're going to lose all your settings and you're going to have to reset it again. So what I've done is got the non-important end of a steel rule and pinged off the cap here, which means I won't lose my settings because I can take that off there. This is a set point, it's not going to adjust, so we can unscrew those to slide that end through the hole. So Ed is just about to appear into the room with the set of BA spanners for me to undo that. So if you can ping that off, you're going to save yourself a lot of a headache without resetting everything. If you break it off while you ping it, I'm sure Raynos will send you another one. I don't know how much they charge you for it. Not a lot, I'd imagine. It's probably going to cost you more in postage. Definitely cost you more in postage. Thank you. My glamorous assistant passing me the right spanners that I need.
Me, not Erica.
There we go. I'll undo those and we'll get that set up. I've taken the reach rod off. Now I've got all the bits over the back hinges, about to see them in the top centre of the camera just here. I've kept them all over here. What you have to remember is your reach rod is actually tapped on this end. So you do need to remove the whole assembly off here, but you should keep your settings in terms of your gear positioning, because we've not changed anything with that. I have noticed a problem though, that when we put the cab on to then put the reach rod back, it don't fit. I don't know if you can see, lift that up there. It's because the cab is fouling on the frames just there. I don't know if you can see. So I need to, using the same principle I've used here, just take the corner out of that section there, following the same method. I've had a chat with Ed about it to make sure that I've not messed it up, because that's the whole point of this. I don't know what I'm doing, and I've got an Ed to hand to ask and enable anyone that wants to follow along and use this to help build their own, figure out what's going on. He's going to amend the drawing now, so all of these that are now cut should fit. He's just going to make them a slightly bit wider to allow for that section there. If anyone is wondering why we haven't cut the hole for the reach rod in the bodywork, is because this is actually symmetrical, and if we were to cut that hole for people with the laser, if you solder this together the wrong way around and your hole is on the wrong side, you've potentially spent a lot of time setting all of this up to get it nice and square, to find out the hole for your reach rod is on the wrong side. And for the very little effort it takes to measure and drill that out, it just seemed wise to put that as a manual task rather than laser cut it and expect people to always get it the right way around, because that would be really frustrating for just the sake of doing that bit by hand. So I'm just going to take that out before I attach it on as well. There we go, I've done that now, so it does fit in this corner and this corner here. You can see I've taken out a little square there. Now you'll see there's some marker pen up here and some scratching, and that's because when I did a test fit to see if it worked before I started filming, I found that this also didn't fit by about 2mm, and we reckon that's because in our earlier videos we had to put a packing right under the end of the boiler here for it to fit, and we think in doing all of that, we've checked it all, and the boiler is pretty spot on in terms of where it should be. It's not leaning, so that is something Ed is going to amend the drawing on. I have filed that down by hand, but again, one of the reasons why he's getting me to do these videos is to check that she does go together as she should. The next thing to check is my measuring capabilities, and to see how much fettling is needed on the reach rod in terms of movement. Now I'm not going to do a full fit because it's going to be coming off and on quite a bit. So it does need a bit of a twirl to get it to bite. There we go. This is going to be difficult to fill now it's got a cap on. If you can see that. So, cap is not attached. And then, I'm going to do this so you can see it on a camera. What I'm actually going to do is try and hold the cab in place and change gear and watch that rod. I think it's okay. I've probably been over generous on this side over than that side, but I've made I've got the knickers in a twist now because of where I've put that in, and I've moved it and it's only caught and it's not popped back. Let's try it again. I'm holding that. I haven't got enough hands. You're gonna have to come and help. Ed's watching in the background with some wood for the fire. I need a strategic thumb on there, please, because I'm being lazy and not screwing the whole thing up to stop it. Right. We're in. I'm gonna. I actually don't think. I think I just need to take a bit off the inside.
Screws fell out.
Oh, I've seen what I need to see anyway. So, I have been too generous in this direction. I could have done with moving the whole thing 2 mil that way, but that's okay. I'd rather have to take stuff off than realise that it's completely in the wrong place, which is the whole point. So I'm going to file about another 2 mil off that edge there, and then it should be fit to go back together. All done, and I've test fit it for now. I'm not going to show you me doing a repeat of what I've just done, but I did connect it all up, and having just taken a little bit off the inside of that, it does fit perfectly. My next job I'm looking at is the safety valve tube. So I have a bit of safety valve tube here, well, it's just a bit of brass tube that bought off a popular auction site, as Ed often calls it, rather than trying to name drop. This is a 10mm diameter with a 9.5mm bore, according to the listing. And I'm going to take the cab off so you can see that it does. Oh, no, you can't see because I haven't got the camera angled properly. Just slides on with a bit of persuasion on there quite nicely. Now, when we put the cab on, you can see that that tube, when it's fit on firmly, put that up a bit there. There you go. Sorry for jerky camera movements. You can see that that's flush against the frame. That's absolutely fine. We need to cut a hole in the roof to allow for this tube to come through. And again, it's a simple measuring up job from where we've been before. What I have done, not on camera, is just to open these little tabs out for the slot, these tabs here, the slots for these tabs that enable it to locate. I've also got some flat nose pliers and just tweak them slightly because as I've soldered them in, they haven't been level. I'm going to just take that out a minute just to show you. Now that it does fit on quite nicely when they're located in properly. Now, I have done it quite a snug fit because I don't want it rattling around and every time it bounces over something it bounces off. But I have got a cab now that fits. So I've done that, And now I need to mark out a section on the roof for that tube to go in. There we go. What I'm going to do is turn that round. On ours, we can see that the tube does sit against the cab, and you need to make sure your cab is fully pushed back, sitting against your mounts at the bottom, to make sure you've got a good measurement. Now, I know that that's resting against there, so I can see that. If you haven't got that, you need to make sure you measure it. I am going to be lazy, I don't need to. And I know that this needs to be in the middle of that, and it will tweak ever so slightly side to side, but it does sit in the middle. So I know that I need that measurement, and then I need to decide which is going to be the front of my cab. So when it is assembled, at the moment I don't actually mind which is the front of the cab, I don't think it makes a difference. But once you commit, you're going to drill a hole. So I know it needs to be in the middle of here, and I've got that measurement there, so I just need to measure that section to get it in the middle, mark it up and drill a hole. Using a step drill, knowing that this tube is 10, we've taken the hole out, or I've taken the hole out to 11, just to allow for paint and wiggle room and clearance. Yeah, that's it really. So if I put my cab on, making sure that that's sat there, and then I'm going to cut this tube down and set that on there. That's a pretty good fit. I don't know if I've got my roof on properly. There we go. It's nice. I like it. Oh, you can't see. Sorry. Let's bring that forward. There you go. You can see. Oh, it's just pinged off. Let's take that off. Put the cab on. I need to fettle these tabs a little bit more, I think. Oh no, this is on. That's better. Yeah, that's a bit of a click. I might need to do a bit more fettling on that tab. But with it now attached, there we have it. It fits. What, having taken that out to 11, no, I don't know if you can see. You can see better on the other eye. You can just see the frame underneath there. That's the fit. So I am going to take a file to that just to fettle that out a little. Doesn't need a lot, but I'll do that without making a lot of noise on camera. And then the next part we'll be ready for. This video is getting quite long, so I'm going to wrap it up very shortly. What I'm going to do off camera is trim down this tube ready for our next video. Now, it shouldn't be flush with the cab. It should stick proud, but not too proud, in Ed's words, that it's about eyeballing it where it is. And we've had a look, and I reckon it needs to be somewhere about 3 to 4 mil proud of the cab, but it is a matter of just eyeballing it and with a pencil marking where you think it roughly should be and chopping it off. Basically, the other thing I'm going to do ready for the next video is to drill a hole in the cab ready for the whistle. It's a dummy whistle that came from Simon Harris at Model Earth. Now, there are some photographs and models. When you're looking at model photos for reference, make sure you look at the real one if you want it to be like the real one and you're not looking at a model, because there's some models out there where the whistle is in the centre of the cab, where on the actual engine it's by the driver's side, sort of like if the windows is like a clock, it's somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock about here. So I'm also going to drill a hole for that ready for the next one. Again, similar sort of concept of how we drilled a hole for that, but this is purely a dummy one, so that's going to go around there as well. But we'll call that there for next video. So when you join us next time, that will have been chopped off. And this should have a hole ready for the whistle. I didn't get time to do the handrails. The video's already long enough, so we'll put that on our next video. But thank you very much for sticking with me, and we look forward to joining us on the next video. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks all. Bye.